Hey, my name's Andrew Madden.
My name is Drew Haas.
My name is Ben Whitman, and today we will be talking about the wage gap. We are now open to questions.
So what's the gap?
Yes.
So, what's the definition?
Well, okay.
What are we
Fine.
talking about?
How do you calculate it?
No, let's start at the beginning.
All right.
Let's define our terms.
We'll define it. So we
Thank you.
define it as a difference in monetary incomes strictly between men and women. So what we're talking about more for our case is just men and women. We're not going into all the finer parts of ethnicity. That we're just focusing strictly on men and women.
And you're focusing only on their monetary compensation, not additional benefits or anything like that.
That's correct.
Okay.
Can you all tell, I noticed in the paragraph that you all sent and that we were provided today, that you're willing to share your personal positions and opinions on wage gap. I think it might help me personally to be able to determine where I'm going to go with my questions if I hear where each one of you individually stand on this issue and just your thoughts.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so for me personally, I would say that there is an actual gap in between what men and women make, but the reason for this gap is not due to actual sex-based discrimination.
I'm right on board with Andrew. I think that the gap, there for sure is a gap, but when they calculate that gap, they don't take into account occupation, position, education, hours per week, and other stuff. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into the actual gap, and I don't think that it is just sexism. If there is any, it's a very, very, very small percentage of the actual wage gap.
So for me, I think that, so right now, a stat that I looked at is about 82 cents on the dollar for the female to male compensation. And I've found a study where it said about 2/3 of that is a result of the job that they take. So that would leave about 6 cents on the dollar off. And I think that has a variety of factors, but I'd say about half of that, about 3 cents, is due to discrimination.
And I don't think any of you really answered my question. I asked for your personal opinion, where you stand on the wage gap. Do you believe that it's fair that there's a wage gap? Maybe that's a better way to clarify what I'm trying to get to based on my line of questioning.
Okay. I think if you're saying yes, I believe the gap is fair.
Why?
I think the gap is fair.
I don't think there should be a gap because of discriminatory reasons. I think that's not fair, but I don't think that there should be too much policy to try and fix that personally.
Are you aware of any current legislation that is already in place that deals with this issue?
Yeah, so there are a bunch of laws that have to do with the actual act. There was the Civil Rights Act of 1994 that protects individuals against discrimination. One of those areas is obviously gender, as well as race and other things like that. Things like the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, Fair Housing Act, Equal Pay Act. There are all kinds of, there's pretty much legislation that covers almost every area that has to do with at least making it illegal to discriminate based on sex.
So if you are citing that there's a Civil Rights Act and people shouldn't be discriminated against based on their gender, and you support the wage gap, 2 of the 3 of you all support that, can you explain how you support that when there's legislation in place that says that should not be the case?
Well, the legislation that's in place is because of actual sex-based discrimination. It doesn't have anything to do with actual job choice and other factors that go into the reasons that the gap exists. So I'm under the opinion that the gap is there because of other choices that don't actually have, or that aren't illegal in any way.
Could you elaborate on those choices?
Choices like job choice. A big part of it is like motherhood and maternity leave and stuff like that. So that has a pretty huge part in future job earnings and stuff like that. So it's sort of a more complicated issue, but if you think about it this way, if a mother has a child and the mother is usually more likely to take off of work to actually raise the children and stuff like that, more likely to drop hours and everything like that. So that naturally takes them out of the workforce for a little while and makes it more difficult for them to keep up with some other men, and therefore they do not excel at quite as quick as a rate, on average, not as a whole, but yes, on average, but not always individually. So
I'm going to add to Andrew. Women are 3 times more likely to leave the workforce to take care of children or a family member instead of men. So when a woman has kids or something like that, or say a man and woman are married, the man is more likely to go into the workforce than a woman is if they have a kid, and the woman is more likely to stay home. So that's talking about Andrew. And then you've asked like choices and how it comes into play. There's a study from Georgetown and that they did about majors. I'm going to list the 5 highest paying majors, and then I'm going to list the percentage of like how many men are in there, and I'm going to list the lowest paying majors and list how many men and women are in there. So the 5 highest paying majors are petroleum engineering. It's 87% male dominated. Pharmaceutical sciences is 48% male, so 52% women. You'll see that it is the only one that is female dominated and very not by much. Math and computer science is 67% male dominated. Aerospace engineering is 88% male dominated, and chemical engineering is 72% male dominated. Now the lowest paying majors are mainly female dominated. Counseling and psychology is 74% female. Early education is 97% female. Theology is 60% male, so that is the one that men are more dominant in. Human services is 81% female, and social work is 88% female. So it's extremely important, your education, what major you get, to have a higher earning job. So women are choosing to do lower paying jobs, maybe because of flexible hours, maybe it's their interest, but there are choices and factors that go into the wage gap. And I want to reiterate what I said, and I think what all 3 of us mean by saying we do not support a sexist wage gap. We support the wage gap that has choices and factors that accumulate that, and we do not support sexism in any way. And I think I can speak for all 3 of us when I say that.
Drew, you just listed off a lot of really interesting career fields, and obviously the first list, higher paid, the second list, the lower paid, correct? Could you extrapolate though that if there was a sexism-based wage gap, if we hold that to be true, then that's why that those career fields that are traditionally female-dominated are paid at a lower rate, and it's not based on the value or the worth to society of those particular majors. I would say psychology, for instance, is a very important field, but yet it's paid at a lower rate. Could that be because it's a female-dominated?
No, I do not think that's true at all. I think that when we have petroleum engineers or chemical engineers that are creating things in society like drugs or things, I think that it's a hard skill, it's a hard work. They are doing work that requires a lot of thinking. They had to pay for that education, the required education, so they are going to get paid more for someone that is just a psychologist or a counselor just doing therapy. I think that it takes a lot more skill, a lot more hard work, and a lot more energy to be an engineer than it does to be a psychologist.
Also, on top of that, really the open market sets the rate for those kind of jobs. It has nothing to do with sex. It's about what other people are willing to pay for them.
How prevalent is the sex-based discrimination, though, and the wage gap still in our society? I know we've got laws and acts that are in place, but is there still areas where you've got 2 counselors, 1 male, 1 female, and the male's making more money and the female's making less?
If they're working the exact same job?
Right.
Okay, so I got this. So I would use nursing as an example. Male nurses make 18% more than female nurses, but male nurses are more likely to seek special nursing, like be a nurse practitioner. They're more likely to work long hours, and they're more willing to relocate. So those are 3 factors that go into them possibly being able to make more money. Like my father didn't move, and he missed out on a job because he didn't move. My mom didn't want him to, so he didn't get that promotion. So single men are a lot more likely to relocate, while women usually like to stay where they are.
Drew, are you blaming your mom for holding your dad back?
No.
Is that what I'm hearing here?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure we were clear.
You'd be driving a nice car.
No.
Let me ask you this, do you have any statistics where they have compared wages for men and women in the same field for both being single and not having children? So single, unmarried, no children, male and female, is there a wage gap?
No, I got it. Women that are unmarried and do not have kids out-earn men by 8% that are unmarried from the ages of 22 to 32.
And is that in all fields, or is that in just a
That is
particular?
in all fields. I do not have
Can you
just
cite that, please?
It is I got it from a research called Pew Research, and they used all kinds of sites. So they used the 2009 U.S. Department of Labor. I don't have all of them down. They also used the American Association of University of Women, but that's not. I doubt they cited that one.
So do you think, based on, you mentioned one of the factors that you believe goes into women of a certain age, not maybe being able to excel in their pay like their male counterparts is because they take maternity leave. How do you feel about careers that men have where they allow for paternity leave and they are given the same amount of time as female counterparts? What is your personal opinion, and do you feel like they should advance at the same rate even if they take off work, based on what you said about the maternity leave as one of your examples?
So are you saying, should men get the same amount of paternity leave as women?
No, what I'm saying is, you all cited that the wage gap, that one of the factors that goes into women not making as much as men in similar positions is because women often take maternity leave. You all know now it's acceptable for men in a lot of industries to take paternity leave. Do you think the same restraint should be put on men with their advancement if they choose to take off time to be with their families? What's your opinion?
I believe so, because if anyone takes off time, and I think that is obviously not the best thing for the company because they need reliable employees all the time. But to look past that slightly, men who do have kids, you see a 23% increase in their pay on average, and women who have kids have a 5% decrease in pay. So I feel like they see different commitments. Like they see if a father has a kid, and they see that he is a committed father, he's going to try and help his family. But if a mother has a kid, then I feel like they see the opposite.
But is that right? Who's to say someone's commitment because a female has a child are you suggesting that that's right? That a man makes 23% more on the dollar than the female makes 5% less because she's the one that had the child?
Okay, so there's actually a reason for that. Usually, since the woman is the one to take off the time of work, she's the one who falls further behind in the workforce. Obviously, and generally when that happens, the male actually tends to work a little bit longer hours to pick up for this. So that's honestly the main reason.
I understand your statistic, but my question was, do you think it's fair for the male in that situation taking paternity leave? Should they not advance like the female would not advance if they took time off work? Because your statistic says they make more money when a baby is introduced into the family, but if they take off for paternity leave, should they be held to the same standard as a female who's taking off for maternity leave?
Of course they should, but what he's talking about is an overall median average. And like I said, women are 3 times more likely to leave the workforce for a kid. So obviously it's a lot less likely that a man stays home, therefore it's going to be a lot different when you're just comparing the two, but of course, no, they should be the same.
Yeah. It's nobody actually like actively giving this women.
It's a choice.
Yeah, nobody purposely pushes a woman behind because of her taking paternity leave. She is put behind because she does not have, or she hasn't advanced in quite a steady rate. Obviously, you're going to fall a little bit behind if you take a year off work.
Just curious, what brought about the paternity leave stuff? You know?
You said, why is there paternity leave?
Yeah, why is it?
We talked about
I
that.
think it's kind of because just trying to make male and females equal in this like modern age of just equivalence, I guess. It's probably not egalitarian.
I'd also like to bring up women and men that both work part-time. Women out-earn men that work part-time if they're both working part-time.
Let me ask you this question. A lot of the times, the women as the main caregiver for children at home, that they can fall behind is they're not able to pick up overtime at the drop of a hat because, ooh, I can't get childcare. Or they might have to take some more time off because I've got to get them to daycare, or in my case, when I was working at a law firm, daycare closed at 7 and I had to be there, and so I got to go. Things like that. Do you believe that instead of looking at it in terms of a sex discrimination issue, it's we need to maybe rethink ways that we structure our workplace to allow more flexibility for women to work alternate hours?
See, I think it's mostly just a choice. Like, it's mostly the woman's choice, really, because nobody's forcing the woman to do that. It could be the man. And it's really that family's personal choice. It's nothing sexist against women. Honestly, the falling behind because of taking work off doesn't have anything to do with what gender you are. It just has everything to do with you actually taking time off. So it's the same thing. The man wanted to be the one to do that. It's not anybody's fault. It's just a fact of life.
Well, and you do have the alternate, so let's say I'm gonna put my career first and I'm gonna forget the kid, and then I have defects showing up at the door because I, have been ignoring my child. So then I end up in jail and then I really fall behind. But what I'm saying is, as a society as a whole, if we determine that this wage gap is a big enough problem, rather than trying to ferret out what may or may not be actual sex discrimination, are there ways we can rethink the way we structure our businesses to make it more friendly for men and women both to take time off, to be with their families and still be able to keep up with their professional responsibilities? So for example, can I work from home after 7 p.m. when I put the kids to bed? Or can I be able to schedule my vacation times so that I'm off when my kids are off for spring break or summer or something like that? Is that something that business leaders needs to be looking in as a way to address the perceived discrimination against women?
Yeah, I would say that that's fair. I would honestly find no problem with that myself.
I think flexibility is important, and I think that, if your workers are happy, then they're going to be more productive, and I think that that's extremely important. Be flexible with your hours. If you can work at home and still be productive and be able to do that, I think that's completely fair. There's choices that lead up to that, but I see the inconveniences, and I think that as business people, to keep their workers happy, they should try to be flexible and make it fair on both accounts, for sure.
Are you aware of any industries that have taken steps to do that?
I'm not.
In terms of making where you can work from more flexible, I think that there are plenty of companies. I know my mom's company has made it much more accessible to actually work from home and stuff like that. So there are plenty of companies that are making it easier to work remotely and stuff like that, which would benefit mothers that can't always be at the workplace.
In your research, did you run across any evidence or any examples specifically in the field of pharmacists? You see that?
I have not done that specific.
No, it was an example that I've seen in my research where there used to be a great wage gap between men and women in pharmacies. And then we had the advent of 24-hour pharmacies and pharmacies at Walmart and CVS, and they're open on the weekends, and that provided a lot more flexibility of when women could work, and all of a sudden that wage gap narrowed, and now, according to what I was able to research, pharmacies or pharmacists, that field has one of the lowest wage gaps.
It was one of the 5 highest paying majors, and it's female dominated.
And do you think the flexibility that there is
For sure.
has something to do with that?
Yeah, and it is. It's important to note too that the wage gap over the past few decades has continued to shrink.
From what?
I can answer that. In 1980, wait, I gotta find it.
Because we're at 82 cents on the dollar right now, I think is what we've established earlier.
Yeah, it's roughly.
Yes, I got it. So it depends how you want to define it. Right now we're just doing weekly. There is hourly. So weekly in 1980, women made 54 cents to the dollar of a man. In 2012, so this is 7 years ago, they made 74% to every man's dollar. And we never said this at the very, very beginning because you asked us what the wage gap is, but I'd like to go back and talk about how it's calculated. It's the median earnings of all women divided by the median earnings of all men. So say a woman makes $3,800 and you divide it by $40,000, then it's 77 cents per week. So that's how you calculate it, and that's not taking into account a lot of the factors and choices that we make and what men make, choices women make, and that's what accounts for that 33% gap.
Is that a fair comparison, taking the wages of all women and comparing to the wages of all men?
I don't
And
think so.
saying, overall, men make more than, is that a fair comparison?
No,
or
it's
is
not
that-
at all.
What would be a more accurate way to determine whether there's really a wage gap?
Well, that's what we're trying to do. we're trying to find all of the factors and put them together. And the